Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I'm here with a brand new horror video. And it's gonna be like with my top worst and best remakes I did. Now that I've covered the remakes, let's cover horror sequels. And it's gonna go in the exact order I did for the worst and best horror remakes. To start things off, let's start off with the worst horror sequels I've seen. Because there's lots of bad horror remakes, there's also lots of terrible horror sequels. Almost a lot of them suck. Then again, mostly sequels sometimes just suck in general. You can still make a good sequel, but just be sure to have the bloody right material when you do it, and actually make it necessary, not made for a quick buck, because a lot of these horror sequels I'm going to mention are all made for a quick buck. So, starting this off, let's get on with the top 11 worst horror movie sequels. And before we start our list, let's start with our dishonorable mentions. So, dishonorable mention number 1, 3 from Hell. Now, okay, I will admit, it's definitely the best of all of these, but compared to the rest I'm going to mention, that is not saying much. But here's why this sequel's still bad, because, 1, it undoes the perfect ending of Devil's Rejects. Rob Zombie should have left it alone there. The Firefly family should have just died after Devil's Rejects, but nope. He had to pull a Halloween Resurrection move and just bring them back, like nothing happened. 2, it's barely even gory. It's barely even graphic like Rejects was. It's barely brutal. It's barely even disturbing. And whenever anything disturbing does attempt to happen, it is probably so hilarious. Like, the home invasion scene was probably the most hilariously badly acted scene I've seen in a horror film ever. Because it's literally just a lot of the stuff's even rehashed from Rejects too. It's basically, this movie just feels like an alternate version Rob wanted to do for Devil's Rejects, but it was like, nah, fuck it, let's do the one where they go on the run, because that's a better one than this. Plus, throw in some random family member that was never mentioned, or just say, okay, he has a connection to Otis, so he's a Firefly member. Worst build-up ever. So yeah, still screw this movie. It's the best of all of these ones I'm going to mention, but that's not saying much. And then next dishonorable mention, Victor Crowley, aka Hatchet 4. Like with 3 from Hell, not needed, except, at least with Victor Crowley's like a ghost, while the Firefly family were human beings, so I guess bringing back Victor Crowley did make kind of sense, in a way, but this movie still sucks. Cause 1, even though it's called Victor Crowley barely has any jack shit screen time in it. Most of the time, whenever he just spends way too long chasing victims before killing them, giving them crap deaths, and most of the time the movie's set on a crashed airplane that you don't even leave. Like the first one, yeah. These people got there because their tour boat got trapped on a rock, because they were on this illegal haunted swamp tour, but hey, at least they left the boat. At least you got to leave the boat and actually got to go in the swamp in the first one. And at least Victor Crowley actually appears more screen time, actually appears a lot sooner in the first one. This movie just feels like a crap reboot of the first one, with little impact, too boring. All the humor in this movie sucks. Like, the humor in the first 3 movies was very funny and creative. This humor in this one is just cringe and pure. Half the movie just feels like a parody. So yeah, screw the 4th one. Screw Victor Crowley. And then dishonorable mention number 3. Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. I think you were expecting this one. So dark you cannot see jack shit. Predator is portrayed as completely dumb in this movie. The Pred alien sucks. The gore and kills in this movie suck. Plus, you can barely even see any of it, so what's the point? This just feels more like a slasher movie than an Alien or Predator movie. Like, I guess it'd be fine if you did not call this an Alien Predator movie and it had better lighting, but it would still be crap. And then final dishonorable mention. Oh, The Descent Part 2. Just why? Like, we're 3 from Hell. They died at the end of the first one. But of course, Lionsgate went behind Neil Marshall's back and they went, nah, they're not dead yet. My god. And let's just give it a downer ending anyway, even though I thought we made this movie because people hated the downer ending of the first one. Nah, just kidding. Let's just give a crappier downer ending instead. And ruin our characters. And just make... And let's also, like, well, half-ass the crawlers, too. So yeah, that takes care of the dishonorable mentions. Now for starter, now let's get on to the real list. Beginning at number 11 is Friday the 13th, Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. Now, I get they want to go. This one actually tried to put Jason in a different location besides just Crystal Lake for once, which was, I guess, kind of nice. But it doesn't even live like an actual title, because Jason only because only the last third of the film takes place in New York, with everything else being on a cruise ship, and of the New York footage, only about 2 minutes of that is in a location actually identifiable as being the city. The awful makeup effects. Title just feels like a fan fiction or parody movie. Like, face it, Jason Takes Manhattan? Jason somehow seems to teleport around the ship. Hip 2. Rennie is such an uninteresting character. She sucks. She just somehow has a connection with Jason. And they copied so much elements from Part 7. Like a tried opening scene because, well... And Jason younger self looks far too average looking. Doesn't look disfigured in the slightest. Either. Like, this is... Now, the redeeming qualities is that... Like, once again, they actually did try to go a different location from Crystal Lake, which was nice. For change, it was just executed horribly. So yeah. Jason Takes Manhattan would be number 11. Probably, it to me is the worst Friday the 13th movie ever. Not even Jason X or Jason Goes to Hell are that terrible. People can argue, who say, those two are the worst. You can argue with me all you want on that. It's not going to change my opinion. Alright. Our next one is... here it is. Number 10 would have to be Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. The 2010 remake is still the worst Elm Street movie, but for the original Elm Street series, this one takes the cake as the second worst Nightmare on Elm Street movie ever. Because it doesn't even try to be scary. It goes for how I come most of the time, feeling more like a live-action Looney Tunes episode, featuring a door-wearing boogeyman with a finger knife glove pretending to be Freddy. Seriously, Freddy is freaking goofy in this film. He does too many cartoony, unfunny things. Like, when he dressed up as the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz and says, "I'll get you my pretty and your little soul too." I was just like, God, Freddy would not do this shit. Just why? No screaming while the bus is in motion, acting like an uncontrolled monkey while Carlos is deaf, playing a video game and making stupid sound effects, pushing a bed of nails while acting like Wile E. Coyote. The kills are awful, there's lame gore effects. Like Freddy's Revenge, Freddy somehow gets additional powers that make no sense, worse than Freddy's Revenge 2. Two uninteresting characters, retcons that continue this series, like, none of them meant... Somehow Freddy has a wife and child, even though none of the other films mention that. They don't even reveal that his entire reason for killing children was because his child was taken away after he murdered his wife. That never happened in the original other movies before this. And the survivors from the Dream Child, from 4 and 5, aren't even in the film, nor are they mentioned. So what even happened to them? And then a script revealed Alice was killed by Freddy, and John Doe is actually a grown Jacob, but final version didn't make any of this clear, so honestly, Dream Child may be bad, but that film felt like a better end to the series than this movie did. And how they permanently kill Freddy is so stupid. The same, like, he just gets his glove stabbed in him, and then he explodes. Oh, and his soul goes flying everywhere. And the abrupt ending is freaking stupid. It's so abrupt because after Freddy's killed, Maggie, the character who killed Freddy, then announces Freddy's dead, and that's the fucking end of the movie. This is how you wrap your fucking franchise? With a stupid quote? Oh my god. Like, in short, guys, this is just the worst Freddy Krueger movie behind the 2010 remake. Just fuck this movie hard. Number 9. Now, I was split between two of these. For starters, one treats Michael Myers as a pussy, but is still a Halloween movie. The other makes Michael Myers still intimidating, but makes his design garbage. Makes him look like a 200-pound homeless hobo in a hoodie. And barely acts like a Halloween movie. Yes, number 9 would be Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Like, Resurrection may be terrible, but that movie has a different kind of terrible. This is not freaking Halloween. It just has the Halloween title slapped on it, and it was like, well, after the 2007 remake made a lot of money, made actually a decent amount of money, Dimension Films announced a sequel. And Rob didn't want to direct it because he hated working on a 2007 remake. That's not a surprise, obviously. But they're like, no, come back, we need you, we have a contract on you. But, however, you can do whatever you want with this one. Now you'll have all the creative control you want if you come back. So he did. And by having creative control, that's not a good thing. That didn't make the movie better. It's because Halloween 2007 was technically directed by a studio. This one is a pure Rob Zombie film. And I really don't think I mean that in the best way possible. This movie's actually freaking worse than the 2007 remake. Like for example, the overabundance of the F words and Dr. Loomis being a complete unlikable asshole who only cares about getting money from a book and doesn't care about anybody but himself. The two paramedics that make those necrophiliac comments. Oh my god. The hospital dream sequence goes on too long. That's literally the only good half of the movie. Laurie is even much... You guys hated Laurie in the first remake? Or hated Scout Taylor Compton's Laurie in the first remake? Wait till you see her in this. Like, she just curses way too much, acts vulgar, acts rude to people, and where even people are just trying to help her or just be nice to her. God, like, apparently Rob thinks Haddonfield is a trash trailer park where people act like scumbags, act immature, constantly dress up like hillbillies, and swear. Or act like rockers. Like, oh my god. All of our towns in real life aren't like this, Rob. That's basically... And they just try to be like the original 2007 movie. They try to be way too graphic. They try to be way too shocking. Just... Ugh. This is barely Halloween, and there's too many goddamn dream sequences with Laurie Strode, and just feels like a music video that just, God, like, this movie just gives me a headache when I watch it. Oh, and the last thing, the one that pisses me off the most. Michael Myers talks. No. He talked. In the director's cut ending, he takes off his mask, yells, "Die!" and just stabs Loomis to death. Even though that's literally against Michael Myers. So yeah, this is number 9. No offense, guys. Number 8 would have to be Seed of Chucky, like with the previous story I mentioned. This just makes Chucky look like an even bigger joke than Bride of Chucky ever did. Basically, Glenda is a terrible character. He has a stupid gag where he pisses his pants every time somebody dies. There's pointless celebrity cameos. Like, this movie, here's just being short. You would just call this movie Chucky in Hollywood. Yeah, it's Chucky in Hollywood. Short for that. Okay. And number 7 would be Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh. Oh my god. This movie barely has anything to do with the first one, barely has any mention of the first one. It was not even scary like the first one was. Like, the first one's a masterpiece. Like, everything after the first one just sucks. Setting the location in New Orleans, the kills are absolutely awful. Candyman has somehow comes back for no reason. They don't even mention the first one at all. It's just a lazy sequel that had the Candyman title slapped on it, made for a quick buck. The end. Number 6, The Ring 2. Like with Candyman, like with Candyman Feral to Flesh or Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. It was just a cash grab. It had the original director of Ringu came back for this one, but I don't know what the hell happened. How can this be so terrible? I mean, you have the original director directing this one. Unless probably DreamWorks had some kind of involvement and decided to make the movie their way and go against his vision, like with Rob Zombie's Halloween. But, God, like, The Ring 2 is just boring, non-stop. Barely anything scary happens in it. Whenever anything scary does happen, it's generic. Unlike the first remake, where at least the scares try to be creative, they just suck in this, and you already pretty much freaking know what's coming, if you've seen the first one. And number 5, Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. Not even say anything more. Oh, God. Like with Candyman Feral to the Flesh and a few other sequels I'm going to mention, this feels more like the Book of No Shadows. And even though it talks about the Blair Witch Project, it has nothing to do with the first Blair Witch movie. Focusing on new characters that we don't like or even care about. The writing sucks. Characters do so much foolish things, like they smoke marijuana and drink alcohol while they're on an expedition project. They're unrealistic weirdos. And let's not forget the sheriff having that over-the-top, goofy, stereotypical southern accent, which is probably stereotypically racist. With too many plot holes, continuing errors. Like Ring 2, it's boring and it's not scary. Extreme predictable plot twist. Plot twist just the end. Like, if you just erase this and just skip straight to Blair Witch 2016, you won't even miss the thing. But even Blair Witch 2016 sucks. First one wasn't really that good movie either, but I can see why it made an impact. And number 4, The Rage, Carrie 2. Like many on this list, just slap the Carrie title onto it. Has nothing to do with Carrie at all. Just has the Carrie title slapped on it just to get a quick buck. And at number 3, I've talked about this one numerous times on every single worst list, but here it goes anyway. Record 3, Genesis. You go from a seriously freaking scary horror film to a comedy with a chainsaw wielding bride. Like with a lot of the other ones I just mentioned, it has nothing to do with Record at all. The tone feels way too comedic for a Record film. It's an absolute embarrassment to Record. Record 1 and 2 are great movies, but Record 4 Apocalypse had its moments, but Record 3 Genesis just sucks. Just, they don't even mention this in Record 4. Like with Book of Shadows, if you just skip this movie, you won't miss a thing. And just go straight to Record 4. Honestly, Record 4 should have been Record 3. If it were, it probably would have been received a little better. And second place, obvious one, Texas Chainsaw 3D. Yeah, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is in 3D, right? If for a Texas Chainsaw movie, it just relies on cheap jump scares by Leatherface. It's too many miscast characters like Bill Moseley is in this movie. Otis Driftwood, by the way, guys. Who plays Drayton Sawyer, looks nothing like Jim Cito. At all. Who played the original Drayton Sawyer. It steals elements from other horror films, like it steals elements from Devil's Rejects, it steals elements from Freddy vs. Jason, horrendous lighting, some horrible cinematography, unneeded cameo reference to Jigsaw that was seen during the carnival scene. And this is actually a direct sequel to the 1974 film, but it feels so unnecessary to even continue that story to add in more Sawyer family members for no reason. Too many pointless and boring subplots that go nowhere and impede the film's runtime. Both of the villains in this poster of the movie are hard to side with. So yeah. Thank God we're getting another Texas Chainsaw Massacre film that is once again going to be a direct sequel to the original movie and will erase the 2013 film and prequel Leatherface, which is a good thing. I really hope they can pull it off right. Hopefully they get it in good hands. And the number one worst horror movie sequel of all time, probably the most boring, pointless, and unnecessary cash grab ever, The Exorcist II, The Heretic. Okay, I didn't really like the first one either, guys. I think it's kind of overhyped, but when it came out, it did make a big impact on the horror genre. It made a lot of people sick when it first came out, so of course they'd go make a sequel because it made a shitload of money at the box office. And guess what? This sequel actually is garbage. Like, at least the first one's kind of entertaining to watch now, though that it's really, really old. This one, even though this one's also really, really old, it's just an awful garbage movie. So bad it's not even good. Like, nothing scary happened in the movie. It never even tried to be scary at all. It has a horrible ending. It's really just a mystery genre movie with a traveling priest. Ridiculous dialogue. Movie is so pointless, you can just skip over this, so it'd be fine. Characters are just dull. Demon has a laughable name. Its name is Pazuzu. It damaged the Exorcist name so much that even the somewhat superior Exorcist 3 Legion couldn't save the franchise from being killed off. So it just made that whole attempt pointless. But yeah. And also, it shows Linda Blair in all sorts of skimpy outfits, which feels really creepy considering that she was only 17 years old when the film was released. Also, you know how much younger she was when the first one was released? It could feel a little more creepy. So anyway, this movie was clearly directed by a pedophile. So yeah, I mean, while there's still some decent performance of interesting ideas, there's no possessed Regan, which is actually thankful for a bad sequel like this, because the possessed Regan just would have made the movie worse, and a decent score. Other than that, it's definitely the number one worst horror sequel of all time, and I suggest you avoid the hell out of it. But anyway, that'll be it for this video. And that's it for all my top 11 worst sequels. Horror sequels. I want to know in the comments below what you find are the worst horror. I mean, your list of worst horror sequels in the comments below. And this was also inspired by Lord Hellhound, aka Horror Metal. For these both remake and sequel lists, all 4 of them are going to be. But I don't know. That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Movie Lover 120.